It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Day 2 of the week for us. Day 3 of the week from us. See you out there. I'm Jeff Parles. Good morning. It is Sports by the Book.
And I'm Alex White. Order can be restored because clearly the White Sox winning yesterday was the only reason I had a losing day.
Well, hold on a second. Order restored. White Sox winning. Wait a second. Hold on.
We're going back. They're going to start the losing streak over today, and I'm going to start my winning streak over.
Oh, I was going to say the only reason the White Sox won was because Frank bet the A's yesterday.
I mean, that too.
Yeah, well, Frank and one other online source both had the A's yesterday. That's a combination that if I had my blinders on, as coaches would say, would have been all over the White Sox yesterday. Even though you and I both said yesterday, if the streak was going to end, it made a lot of sense it was going to be yesterday. And the White Sox ended at the drinking age of 21 yesterday in Oakland. Sean, you can swoosh it across the screen. There you go. Starting 5. As always, we kick it off with Olympic women's basketball. How about that, Alex White? We start with the United States, humongous favorites today against Nigeria, an accomplishment of its own for Nigeria to make it into the knockout stage for the first time ever. They have moved here. The U.S. is getting bet from 27 to 28.5 against Nigeria. That gets going about 12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 Eastern for that one in Paris.
Looking forward to that one. Men's basketball looked outstanding yesterday as well. It's been very fun to watch both of these teams. Number 2, Braves trying to get back on the winning column after being shut out. They have ace Chris Sale starting against Freddie Peralta and the Brew Crew. Braves minus 150 here at the South Point, total 8. Braves, though, 66, 41, and 5 to the under this season.
The rubber match in number 3 is the Dodgers and the Phils. Phillies 6-2 winners last night. Dodgers look to salvage the final game and win a series and send the Phillies to their 7th straight series loss with Gavin Stone tonight. Really an ugly pitching matchup. Phillips and Stone, your pitching matchup in L.A. Phillies go to Arizona next for 4. Dodgers again trying to just keep, I know it's weird to say with them in first place, but the Padres scorching hot won again yesterday. So 4-game lead in the NL West for L.A.
This is not an ugly pitching matchup. It's actually a great pitching matchup. We've got Tarek Skubal and George Kirby. Detroit, not much to play for, but they took game 1 4-2. Mariners minus 131. Lowest total on the board, I believe, 6. Juice to the over minus 115.
And number 5, what do you got on the show today? Well, we got some baseball for you at the top of the show. And then Bud Elliot at the Cover 3 podcast also will be doing the college football preview panel over at Bet Bash tomorrow. So we'll get some early thoughts from Bud Elliot, who we always love talking to here on the show, one of the most respected guys covering college football there is at this point. And that's your starting 5 here on a Wednesday morning, the first Wednesday of August, the final day of the first week of August, and preseason football begins tomorrow. We'll have some thoughts on those games on the show tomorrow. We'll also have Captain Jack tomorrow on the show, so it'll be a fun half hour in a short one tomorrow because Gone Racing makes its triumphant return to the desk tomorrow morning.
After 2 weeks off. I know a lot of people will be looking forward to that.
Where's NASCAR this week? What was that, Sean? Thank you. They're in Richmond this week. I don't know if that was Sean or Caden. Thank you in the corner from whichever voice it was coming from over there. The way Caden is looking right now, I'm assuming it was Caden.
It was Caden.
Okay. All right. So they're in Richmond this weekend. Also, speaking of baseball and NASCAR merged into one, did you see this yesterday, Alex White?
I don't think so.
That the Braves and the Reds next year will play a Major League Baseball game at Bristol Motor Speedway.
I did not see that.
Yeah, hopefully we can go old school Polo Grounds dimensions and have like a 700-foot center field. That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be.
If they did that. Tennessee football played Virginia Tech at Bristol, I'm pretty sure, just before the pandemic hit. So non-NASCAR events starting to come in vogue there at Bristol Motor Speedway there in eastern Tennessee. All right, let's get into baseball here today. Let's start with the Pirates and the Padres, Alex White. Yesterday, weird job by the Pirates yesterday. The inclement weather came early, so Dylan Cease and Bailey Falter only combined for 3 total innings. Padres end up winning yesterday by a final of 6-0 with 4 of those runs coming in the 5th inning. Padres scorching right now. 8 of their last 10. If you extrapolate it out, It's 13 out of their last 17. They are red hot right now for San Diego. Currently 4 behind the Dodgers, and they actually overtook the number 1 wild card yesterday with the Braves losing yet again and the Diamondbacks getting rained out in Cleveland.
Wow, so a lot of action here on the Padres. I bet them last night at minus 144. 157, I mean, that is getting to almost be where there's not a lot of value. But still, if you want to look at it in the sense of just common sense and science behind it and not just the numbers, I think that the Padres is still the right side if you want to put it together with somebody else. Michael King has been phenomenal. If it weren't for Dylan Cease having such a great year, people would be talking about him more. But 2 earned runs against the Orioles, held the 4 opponents before that to just 1, barely walks anyone, a total of 7 walks and 35 strikeouts in those 30 innings pitched. And then, like you said, Jeff, really looking at their offense, 146 weighted runs carried plus on the season. I mean, in their last 3 games, and on the season, they've been just as good, 112. So might be a little bit of regression to the mean here soon, but I don't think against the Pirates here in this matchup. So just a little tidbit. I do have a lot of favorites today. Only 1 underdog on my card. And yesterday, I think I had too many totals. So we're going back to what was working for me. And it's favorites today. So Padres, first favorite on the board for me.
Always adjusting. Always adjusting. You won't have a lot of success, especially in baseball, if you're not adjusting on a daily basis.
Well, on the flip side, last week, I was kind of looking at what I was betting and what was working. And you don't have to adjust if that was working, right? Yesterday, I come in with all these totals, and it's like, why change?
Oh, I would meaning more like adjusting your numbers.
Adjusting the numbers,
yeah,
for sure.
Yes. But, no, 100. Look, if you find your sweet spot.
That's right.
Of course, find your sweet spot. Sides have been better than totals for you this year. So that's why on the list today, we're going to see a lot of totals, or no totals, I should say, and a lot of just sides. And we'll get to your dog of the day. The rest are favorites. Chalk today on a Wednesday for Alex. Well, as long as it's not the same chalk that Frank has at 12:36, you're in good shape.
We're good. He's only picking dogs this month, August. So we're okay.
So he laid the run line with the A's yesterday. That was the dog. Okay, that's right. It's dog. So as long as he doesn't land on your underdog, you're okay.
Right.
How is he doing so far, by the way, Ryan McCormick? Just a thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs down? Okay, we're maybe he'll run the table the wrong way. All right, let's go Reds and Marlins next. I know you don't have a play on this game. Nothing really pops out to me, but it is yet another day where I think the Reds are underpriced. Now, the market is coming heavy on Miami in this game. Minus 149 at the peak, down to minus 123 with Abbott against Bazzello here for the Fish. Ellie De La Cruz has 7 extra base hits in 2 games in this series. So a little bit hot at the moment for Ellie. I'm at the point where if this thing keeps creeping down, I think you're kind of in the boat of it's Cincinnati, especially if you get south of minus 120. Then we're really in a position where I think the number went too far. Really
looking at their offense, Jeff, I mean, they are 92 WRC plus on the season and 148 in their last 3 games. So they have been playing very well. I think that's the only way you'd want to play it, unless you want to look at the Marlins team total under, which is 3.5. If you like the under, it's even money right now at the South Point, but they really can't hit lefties. They're 7-30 on the year against lefties when they start against them. So no official play for me. I didn't trust Cincinnati to complete the sweep against the Cubs. So that kind of steered me off of this one to get the game 3 here against Miami, but it is Miami. So I don't think that it's a terrible bet at all.
I can see if we can get a little cheaper. That's my whole philosophy on that one. All right, moving to the Nats and the Giants. Blake Snell, last time out, threw a no-hitter against those Reds that we just mentioned. Jake Irvin, who has had a quietly good season for the Nats, goes for Washington. Mackenzie Gore, the Nats actually won yesterday, even though it had more to do with that offense, more so than anything. Right now, plus 145 behind us on the Nats and Irvin. Total 7.5, minus 155. You have to lay on the favorite Giants in this one. So no denying Blake Snell had an incredible July coming off that no-hitter. He has been very good. But like you said, Jake Irvin is having a good year as well. I just think that this number is a little bit overpriced. I'm going to sell high here on the Giants and Blake Snell. This is my dog of the day here with the Nationals. They've been hitting really good on the season. It's 94 WRC plus.
Last 3 games, 146. And then Irving, even his due factor, 3.6 ERA compared to Blake Snell, which is a 5.01. So I like the Nationals here today at that plus 145 price.
It would only be the dog and following you here, Alex. That would be the only way to look at this. Giants, again, kind of on the cusp of being completely out of things in that NL race. Even though right now, Pirates starting to play their way backwards. Cardinals got an important win last night to at least stabilize the ship and stay within 3 in the NL race. Speaking of looking to stabilize the ship, the Braves, after looking like they did that, have lost 3 in a row, and all of a sudden, entering today, are in the 6 hole in the NL. They're the last wild card right now entering today. They do send their ace and Cy Young favorite Chris Sale to the mound tonight against Freddie Peralta of the Brewers. Really nice under-the-radar pitching matchup there in Atlanta.
Yes.
Brewers won big yesterday. Nice little dog price if you took Milwaukee, like we said to on the show yesterday. Braves, minus 150, total of 8 on this one. Brew Crew, plus 140.
Nothing for me in this one. I think that minus 150 is correct, but I really have no faith in the Braves right now. Looking at them offensively, of course, we know Chris Sale has been phenomenal, but I mean, on the season, their WRC plus is 96. The last 3 games, 59. Expect some positive regression, you would hope, but you just never know when the lineup is going to turn it on. So nothing for me in this one. And yeah, that was all Jeff with the Brewers yesterday.
I get one right every once in a while, I guess, right? I'm better record than Frank in the month of August with underdogs. I know that. Right? So otherwise, I wish everyone could have heard that from Keith Lyle. That was pretty funny.
That was very.
I'm staying out of this game. I think the pricing's right, more so than anything. I think under 8's probably okay. If you're looking for something, you mentioned it, the Braves offense. Now, they've been destroyed by injuries, but Matt Olson's having a down year. Other than Marcell Ozuna in that offense, everyone is either static or down in comparison to what they've been over the last 2-3 years. Sale, again, I'm not sure if he should be the NL Cy Young. You might end up winning by default because the Phillies guys have kind of tapered off a little bit. And I just think Dylan Cease is probably too far behind at this point of where he was starting in order to run Sale down in that award. Peralta, don't let that near 4 ERA fool you. And Peralta's had a good year. It's really 3 bad starts that really have hijacked his numbers so far this year. So, again, I would look to an under 8. That'd be the only thing I'd even consider right now in Atlanta and Milwaukee. Let's go to Colorado next. Rockies beat the Mets yesterday. Mets starting to struggle a little bit. Still a game and a half behind Atlanta in that NL wildcard chase. Paul Blackburn makes his second Mets start. Pitched great on Friday against the Angels. Ryan Feltner will go for the Rockies. Mets hit Feltner up pretty good in the first outing right before the All-Star break. Market has bet Colorado here, minus 160 to minus 147 on the Mets. Rockies from plus 150 to plus 137. A total sitting at 11 at Coors Field.
Kind of surprising that the market is on the Rockies here. Blackburn did have a couple starts where he struggled when he was with the A's, but as you mentioned, great first start for the Mets. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and on 6 hits. And Feltner 0-3 at home in his 9 starts, 6.14 ERA. Now, the Mets have cooled down a little bit with their 112 WRC plus for the season, just 85 in their last 3 games. But the Rockies are sitting here at 68. So I still think that they can out-hit Colorado, and I think they can get to Feltner. So I like the Mets here. I did lay the price.
Seeing 11, I kind of want to play that thing over, but the Mets are not hitting with runners in scoring position right now. That's part of the reason that they have struggled. It's why they lost the series in Anaheim. It's why part of the reason they lost last night, again, to Colorado. Again, Blackburn. Those numbers you see on the screen only as Mets starts. ERA just a little north of 4, and has dealt with injury so far this year with Oakland before coming over to New York.
Due factor WRC plus for the Mets, 139, 100 using as the average here. I do trust them. I think that they have been a great lineup all year.
So you've brought up due factor with pitching. You also do this with the hitting now as well.
Yes, okay. I've got a somebody who's pretty good at this sports betting thing behind the scenes that watches our shows and is like, I have another idea.
No, it's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Throws it in there, yeah.
Let's go to LA next. Let's go there. Rubber match, Dodgers, Phillies, we mentioned in the starting five. Phillips and Stone, your pitching matchup. Dodgers trying to send the Phillies to their 7th consecutive series loss. You know, I'll say this, Alex. I see that price on the Phillies in a pitching matchup that I don't think there's a decided advantage on either side. I see that price and think, all right, you know what? It's pretty reasonable on the Phils with a plus 124 spot where I don't think the Dodgers have much of a pitching advantage here. And again, I don't think it's a disadvantage for the Dodgers, but the market is saying that this is a little more of an advantage than I think it should be.
I'm with you. I think this is a pretty even matchup between these two and not the best pitchers of either team at all. Phillips, 4.91 xFIB against his last 3 opponents. And then on the flip side, Gavin Stone, 5.32. So really it would only be a play for me with that plus money with the Phillies. Just kind of stayed off of it with the Dodgers trying to avoid another loss against them.
The Dodgers and the Phillies entering today still with the 2 best records in the National League. If you're just looking real quick, though, if you're just going full-on league, the Dodgers only have a 2-game lead on the Brewers for the 2 seed. So that race, which a lot of, again, me included, just assumed that the Dodgers and Phillies would steamroll one way or another to 1 and 2. That race for the 2 seed's not done. And Milwaukee very much live to get a bye and send either the Dodgers or Phillies into that wild card series, which, with the way the Dodgers have not succeeded in the division series, maybe they would welcome a wild card series and continuing to play over that first weekend in the Major League Baseball postseason. Let's go to the American League. Near no-hitter last night thrown by Framber Valdez, 1 out away, and for the second time in his career, becoming the first player in baseball history to do it, Corey Seager, with 26 outs down and 1 to go for a pitcher needing a no-hitter, Seager busted up for the second time in his career.
Brutal.
First player in Major League history to do that now with that home run with 2 outs last night. Kikuchi and Urania tonight, this afternoon, I should say, in Arlington, minus 125 on Kikuchi and the Astros. Again, I still can't believe that the Astros gave as much up as they did for Kikuchi. He struggled in his first outing with Houston. Nothing for me on this one, Alex. The total has not moved at all. The total's been pretty stable at 9 juiced over.
I really have nothing in this one either. Slight lean to the home team here with the plus money, kind of as you mentioned with Kikuchi's first start for Houston. Both these guys are due their ERA. And then flip side, we kind of like I mentioned yesterday. I mean, I went over in that game, and of course, we almost have a no-hitter. So both their lineups are due as well, looking at their WRC plus. So I just stayed away, but it would be a play on the Rangers if I were to play
Only
it.
Texas as a possibility for Alex, but not barely even into the lean column at that on the Rangers this afternoon in Arlington. Hey, the Oakland A's and the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox, you did it. You won a baseball game. You did it. Way to go. 1 in a row. 1 in a row. 1 in a row for the White Sox. We're now 60 games under 500 after that win last night. 28 and 88. Nice. Actually, it wasn't even a nice coasty win at that for the White Sox last night. It'll be Martin and Estes here today at the Coliseum at Oakland. Alex, minus 180 on the A's, plus 165 on the take back on the White Sox, 8.5. Do the White Sox dare go win 2 straight games, Alex?
I don't think so. I think this is all Oakland here, especially after losing to them. And not a huge pitching advantage for them. Yeah, pretty good. So, I mean, I think that number is correct if you want to tie it up with maybe that first dog I gave you in the Padres. But I wouldn't just go lay minus 180 on the A's by themselves.
I just see that price on Oakland. It's like, wow.
I know.
And it's kind of like yesterday where that was as good. Ross Stripling should never be a $2 favorite on this team. And again, the A's lose and the White Sox finally snapped that losing
Little
streak.
plus money there with the run line again, though, if we want to go minus 1.5, plus 105.
You could have done the reverse run line yesterday and been in great shape on the White Sox, too,
Yes,
Alex.
you could have. We talked about it yesterday, I believe, right? Because they have they have 2 games against the Cubs, then they have the Yankees, then they have the Astros and Giants, I believe.
That sounds right. That sounds
the
right.
White Sox. So I mean, these are teams that are all playing for their playoff lives and for their rankings. So I think we might start another streak over.
As we do know, though, Alex, it is still baseball.
That's true.
It's part of the reason it's one of the hardest sports to perfect out here from a betting perspective. Unless we were betting the White Sox the previous 21 days until yesterday, against the White Sox the previous 21 days until yesterday. Let's go to Baltimore and Toronto. Rogers and Francis, your pitching matchup. Trevor Rogers was awful in his first start as an Oriole. Didn't even last 4 innings in that game. Market is betting against him again. Minus 144 on the open for the O's, now down to minus 127. Jays were at plus 134, now plus 117 behind us, with a total of 9.5 in this one, Alex.
Yeah, nothing for me in this one, but Rogers does have an extremely high double-digit do factor ERA. So if that leads you anyway, it should be towards the Blue Jays. As I was prepping last night, I kind of realized I don't think I've bet on the Orioles or against them all year long. There's one of these teams that kind of just have not been on my radar, and I've passed over.
That's very interesting because it's one of the better teams in baseball. Just, I guess, that your power ratings have been very much in line with what the books have had with them the whole year.
Yeah, exactly. So no reason to really jump on them and back them when they're favorites, but haven't found a good spot to bet against them either.
That's so interesting. That is so interesting. Especially with a team that you would have, at least I would have expected it as like short dogs or something along those lines. You had them in the first 5, but maybe not a full game the whole year. You had them in the first 5 last week against Cleveland.
Yes, I did. Okay.
But not a full game, no.
Okay.
It's just the first 5. So full game numbers have been pretty well in line with what the books have done.
And I bet against them with Cleveland. So I lied.
Okay, so take out Guardians games, and Alex hasn't touched them all year. It's okay.
There you go. Yes.
It's okay. Boston and Kansas City's up next. Crawford and Reagan's your pitching matchup in Middle America. Again, the Red Sox take the first 2, and all of a sudden, this looks like a potential issue here for Kansas City in that wild card race yet again, where the Royals are down to a half-game lead. If they get swept out here, Boston takes over that final wild card. With that said, I think this is a nice spot for Kansas City to bounce back after 2 bad days in a row. You have your best pitcher on the mound. You have a guy who, in Crawford, who his regular numbers look pretty decent, but if you go under the hood a little bit, I'm curious what is his do factor right now?
Very good. He should pitch a shutout today.
Really? Okay. Wow. Okay.
We're talking about Cutter Crawford, right?
Cutter
Not
Crawford,
Cole Reagans. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Really? Okay. All right. So I guess we'll throw the do factor out the window for my handicap. But again, I just in the case of Kansas City.
But I mean, so Cole Reagans is a 2.
So that's basic. So you're saying under based off of those numbers?
Based off of these numbers, yes, very much. Even though the Royals should be due to get their lineup going, but we haven't really seen much of that. It's tough. I stayed away from this. I thought Red Sox and then adding in a little bit to the Royals to not get swept here. So I thought that number was just right, that 131. So
I'm going to stay with KC on this game, minus 131 on the Royals. If the price goes down, yeah, I'm definitely more willing if we get south of 130 on KC. All right, a game I know you're looking at here. Tariq Skubal, George Kirby, your pitching matchup in Seattle, minus 131 on the M's. Again, dynamite matchup here. Guys who have basically sub-3 RAs, whips under 1, or 1s or below, I should say. Skubal's still your betting favorite to win the AL Cy Young. Still don't think that's right, but that's a different argument for a different time. Mariners, minus 131 in this one. How about a 6 on the total, Alex White?
I think that 6 is correct. I agree with that total, definitely. I might be pushing my luck. I bet against Skubal last week against the Royals through 6 innings, 7 hits, 5 earned runs against Kansas City. But I'm betting numbers. I'm not betting people or teams. So I'm taking the Mariners here at minus 131. I think it is a good price for George Kirby. 2 earned runs against Boston, 0 against the White Sox, and then 1 against the Astros and the Angels. So his last 4 starts have been very good. The Mariners have been struggling a little bit offensively, just 68 WRC plus. Their average on the year, 95. So I am expecting them a little positive regression here for Seattle.
Mariners entering today's game still in first place, only a half game clear of Houston. Again, just trying to hold on for dear life in that American League West race, the Seattle Mariners. All right, let's go to the Cubs and the Twins. Assad and Ryan yesterday. How about the wind and Wrigley not playing any sort of factor at all on that total easy over if you had the over 6.
Yep.
Day game at Wrigley, total 7.5, minus 135 on the Minnesota Twins for this one.
I am on the Twins in this one as well. Joe Ryan has been very good for the Twins. I'm trying to find my spots here. But yeah, ERA against the last, batting average for his last 3 opponents, under 100. Slugging, 3.17. And really not much for these two. I think that the Twins should be a bigger favorite in this game.
Twins entering today, still in that 5th slot in the American League, a game and a half behind Baltimore, who is officially behind the Yankees now in that American League East race. We'll get to the Yankees in a second. Toronto. How about let's go Tampa and St. Louis here. Bradley and Fetty. Oh, that's Eric Fetty. I think I know which direction you're going here in this game, Alex White. Cardinals have been bet down from minus 114 to minus 108 in this one.
So I took a bad number. I did lay the minus 113 here with St. Louis. If you watched his first start, it was really just one bad pitch. There was an error, he had a runner on, and then one bad pitch gave up a 2-run home run here for Eric Fetty. But I like a bounce back spot here for him. I think it's a good price at home. Under, minus 120 here. So, yep, I am on the cards as well.
There are 2 doubleheaders in baseball today. Again, as always, make sure if you're here in Nevada, make sure you're betting the right games on those rotation numbers because it is a little bit backwards today because that Cleveland-Arizona game was supposed to be a day game to begin with, so that stays with the regular rotation number. The game 2 will be the added one. It's the opposite in the Bronx today, so at least be aware of that. Game 1 in Cleveland's going to be lively against Fott, which is a little bit different in the pitching matchup we expected yesterday. So minus 110 on Cleveland. Total's been bet up to 8 in game 1. Game 2 is actually the reversed, but the same price, where Rodriguez is a minus 110 favorite for Arizona with a total of 7.5 against Cookie Carrasco. So that's game 2 on the bottom of your screen right now. Game 1, just reverse your price on Cleveland and Arizona, Alex.
Looking at game 2, going against Cookie Carrasco, I do think that's a cheap price on the Diamondbacks, minus 110. I know we don't have anything from Eduardo Rodriguez from this year. We have to go back to last year, but I think minus 110 for him. We'll see how he does with his first start back, making his debut.
Arizona, again, is now the number 2 wild card in the National League, just playing electric baseball right now, going from 4 games under 500 to 9 games over in less than 25 games. Been quite the run for Arizona. Then the Yankees and Angels, I don't have anything on either game. Game 1 is the same pitching matchup we had yesterday, which is the 931, 932 on your card. Gila is a minus 310 favorite. And then game 2, right now, Yankees go. The only price out there right now is minus 240 and $2 on the Angels. So I can't really do anything on either of these games.
Agreed. I do think that number is a little bit big on the Yankees, but
for both games, minus over $3 on Heel.
I do have both of them, not quite as high, but not enough to jump in on Los Angeles.
Weather across the East Coast, again, causing these 2 doubleheaders to be played today. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, we bring him in. Bud Elliot talking college football when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio. The perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes. I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sportsbook, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White. And now joining us in studio, you see him on the Cover 3 podcast, 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports as well. Of course, back in the day, all things Florida State, but now nationwide. Bud Elliot with us right now.
What's going on, y'all?
It's great. It's great to have you in studio today. You'll be at tomorrow, the panel at Bet Bash. You and Brett McMurphy and Tim Murray, of course, talking all things college football tomorrow.
It's a new era in college football with the expanded 12-team playoff, and you have the conference realignment. And we were just talking before we went live about some of the conference win totals they have here at South Point. There's a lot of different ways to attack the sport this year. It's pretty exciting.
So just you brought it up. So let's just start there. The 12-team playoff gives us this whole, obviously, it's a whole new world here where you're going to have teams that you're going to have more debates about everything. One thing that I'm intrigued by is that non-Power 4 slot that we know is going to have to be given out. But from looking going into your season, how much are you changing the way you're looking at things going in there because we have an expanded playoff now?
I think quite a bit, actually, right? The trickle down, this is part of what I'm talking about at the seminar tomorrow at Bet Bash, and we talk about this on Cover 3 a lot, but I mean, there are different ways I think you have to attack the season long, and also the rhythm of the season. I think we are probably going to see greater load management, right, from these teams, knowing that if your goal is to win the whole damn thing, you're going to probably have to win 15 or 16 ball games if you go undefeated. But like, you're going to play 15 or 16 games if you win the national title. That's a lot of hits, man. Like, football's a collision sport, not a contact sport. So, how much do we see some of these teams try to rotate their guys in? Maybe they change their internal definition of when garbage time really kicks in. Like, when do they slow it down? When do they get some of these 5-star freshmen into the game? And I think different teams will attack that differently. So I'm definitely looking at that. I think preseason wise, it's sort of like bet this, not that, right? Like, you've seen like on social media, like eat this, not that type thing. Like, would you rather bet Penn State over 9.5 minus 70, or like Penn State minus 30 to make the playoffs? Like, in what world does a 10-2 Penn State not make it? You see what I'm saying? So like there's a lot of stuff out there that I think it's not really arbitrage. It's just, let's use common sense and logic to work your way through this type of thing. So there's a lot of different stuff. I bet Bama under their conference win total here yesterday, and I've already bet Bama to make the playoff at like plus 30. Right. Like, just different things like that I think can coexist.
This is a pretty weighted question, but how do you think teams will do that are switching conferences, Texas and Oklahoma, all the teams from the Pac-12 that are now moving, just like in general? I
mean, Texas, Oklahoma, definitely the average defensive lineman they're going to play is a lot different than if you look at like what SEC produces or Big Ten, but especially like SEC versus what the Big 12 produces along the defensive line. It's night and day. What Texas, and especially the Oklahoma offensive line, because they did lose so much. I mean, if they stay very healthy, which I know Phil Steele always talks about, like the 2000 Oklahoma team, they didn't lose a single start to injury all year, that's great. It's not incredible really a plan, but that works if you can do that. I think Oregon will be absolutely fine. Washington, it's a whole new squad. Yeah. Like they have one returning starter basically. So your guess is kind of as good as mine there.
I want to go back to actually the load management thing, because obviously we deal with that in the NBA. We deal with that sometimes in college basketball, rarely in the regular season. But at least just my mind's been going since that answer for me there, Bud, because like just thinking from an in-game betting perspective, this is going to be totally different, especially like just let's take Ohio State, for example. They're probably winning at worst 10 games. Right. 10-2, Ohio State's still going to make the playoff. Like when they play at the beginning of the year, especially, I mean, teams that like Marshall and Western Michigan, I mean, that could be 28-7 at halftime, and we could see a lot of the second guys in that second half.
And what we don't know is some coaches may decide to just kind of, taxi squat it and put everybody in late.
Right.
And some may just decide to work in some of their younger guys earlier in the game, just, sort of as a matter of course with the starter. So I don't know that your historical trends, like if you're betting in game, you're probably betting coach tendencies.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I don't really feel like talking about specific coach tendencies on the air, but those could change. Yeah. Because more coaches might have different tendencies now with the eye on that 12-teamer. You also, the one interesting spot to look at is like Big 12, which is probably a one bid league. Could be two if you have like a bid thief, to use the college basketball term. So, like, let's say Utah is already 9-2, and they're going to UCF on the final weekend of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting in as an at-large. They either get in, win in the Big 12, because 9-3 Utah ain't going. At least, I don't know. Not in my model.
I would agree.
Why do they play anybody at UCF if they're already locked up in the Big 12 title game, and they know the playoff ticket is the Big 12 title game only? It's sort of a Week 17 NFL style thing. Come to college. I think that's a rare situation in a one bid league like that, but I mean ultimately that's a decision they may have to make in a very sort of narrow circumstance.
And also in these one bid leagues, you really have to look at their non-con, right? Because those are going to mean so much for them coming down to the end.
100%. So like Liberty travels to App State, Texas State gets Arizona State to come, to them. I think the strength of the Mountain West is going to be judged not only based on what Boise does against Oregon. Like they'll probably get pasted against Oregon. Okay. But
sure.
Like, can UNLV hang with Houston? That could be a nice feather in the cap there. Maybe Fresno is able to hang tight with Michigan for 35 minutes or something like that. There's a lot of turnover at Michigan this year. I think they'll probably still dominate Fresno along the line of scrimmage, but maybe some of those second, third, fourth, fifth teams in the Mountain West can help to boost Boise's resume if Boise does get smoked by Oregon, which Liberty got smoked by Oregon in the playoff last year. So I think a lot of us are assuming, or the Fiesta Bowl playoff, but I think a lot of us are assuming maybe there'll be a little anti-Liberty bias from the committee because they don't want to see that same thing again.
Well, I'm happy you brought that up too, because just eyeballing like to make the playoff markets right now, it felt like some of the books have the wrong numbers up for these non-Power 4 teams, where I found Boise State at 5-1 to make the playoff, which at least in my mind, all right, if they go, they're going to lose at Autzen. Like they're going to lose. They're going to be a more than a 2-touchdown dog in that game. But other than that, all right, not the easiest game the final week of the season against Oregon State. They have to play Wazoo. They have to come here to Vegas to take on a UNLV team that we think will be pretty good again. But they were 5-1. Memphis was plus 450. I mean, I thought those were some mispriced things where Memphis, I think they're pretty clearly the best team in the American. They get your Seminoles as well.
Right.
One of those other measuring stick games.
It's of the G5 teams, it's basically Boise, Fresno, UNLV, Texas State, App, Liberty, Memphis, Tulane.
Maybe is
it actually 10 deep? I don't think so. It's probably like 7 or 8 deep, right? I don't hate that Boise wager there at all. I thought the true mispricing in the playoff market, and it's been corrected a good bit in the last 2 weeks, was I thought the top teams were really underpriced. Now, that's how many people really want to lay. Do you want to lay 240 with Oregon in June?
Not really, but that seems like a good bet.
But I think it's a great value. I think the appropriate price is over $3, and kind of the same thing with Ohio State back when they were in the 4s. Really, who can block them? But that's kind of corrected some. Now we're starting to see some of these, like we said, would you rather bet over 9.5 or would you rather bet to make the playoff? Some of that's getting bet out of the market now, and maybe we'll get some trickle down where some of the long shots make more sense.
So this is very interesting because it is new for all of us bettors, but it's also the first year for the bookmakers too.
Yeah.
You found a loophole where you felt like you found some value kind of being corrected. Is there any other spots that we can still look now, or is it more waiting till the season starts and seeing how it goes as games begin?
I think some of the derivative markets still have some options, right? I mean, not every place is going to price the alternate win lines or alternate win totals correctly, or not correctly. I'm not saying they're doing it wrong. They're not going to price them the same, right? And I mean, like the way you price one does not necessarily need to be the way you price the other, based on the distributions of like the likely win. So some of that, I think some of these books fix some of the exact win total markets, which I thought were pretty ripe for like the last 2 years, but those have tightened up a little bit.
I just want to bring up just some futures real quick, just looking at like conference championship things, because of course those Power Four now, you win your conference championship, you're into the playoff automatically. You brought up the Big 12. I just want to start there because just top to bottom, I know that at the bottom, Houston, Arizona State programs in transition, even though we love ourselves Lily Fritz. But that league really does feel like, hey, Utah was the preseason favorite, but I could make arguments for Kansas State, obviously. Kansas, if Jalen Daniels stays healthy. Of course, Iowa State seems to be a team a lot of people like going in. This feels like if you're looking to take a bomb down the board, that would be the league of the Power Four to take a shot in.
So this has been a great annoyance of mine this year because last year I had Oklahoma State 66 and 60-1 to win, and hedged it out, obviously, but I love the schedule and I liked what they had. The prior year I had TCU at like 40 or 50. Mm-hmm. So those were, great. I got lucky, obviously, but like those were the two. And I wasn't really spraying the board in those conferences. This year, I feel like the books are like, okay, with Texas and Oklahoma gone, we're just gonna kneecap everybody. Where's the real long shot that you want to hit on? And I think he did the same to the Heisman market. Honestly, I mean, like in prior years, we probably get Nico at 30 or 35 from Tennessee, but now we don't.
18,
I'm like, it stinks. UCF, I could see. Oklahoma State, I could see, but those have both been bet in the last month, pretty good.
Yeah, Central Florida 9-1 behind us. Oklahoma State's 8-1 behind us. So, I mean, you're not getting.
See?
I mean, look, if you were looking for prices like you said, you're basically betting the bottom of the conference at this point. You're betting 75-1 on Houston, no thank you. 80-1 on Cincinnati, definitely
also
no thank you.
Yeah.
And then 100-1 on Arizona State and Baylor. No, even though I will say Baylor's whole marketing plan now with the "We Pay Players" shirt is very very entertaining and very 2020.
Open for business. Yeah.
But I think you're right. I mean, based off of Chris's numbers behind us, TCU 16-1. I don't really love Hoover at the quarterback position. I have questions on their defense as well.
Yeah,
to say the very least on TCU's defense.
The injury reports out of TCU the last couple of days have been a disaster. I'm like, no, thank you. Hard on that one.
Just going to the ACC next, then, because just look, it feels like it is going back to the old school. It's going to be Florida State and Clemson in Charlotte, barring some sort of surprise. I know a lot of people like Miami, but I don't trust Mario Cristobal one bit. But the one team that keep kind of just gnawing there for me more than anything is Louisville, where you have a much better quarterback situation than a year ago. And we know that Braum is more than capable of taking yet another step with a Louisville team that we saw a year ago.
I can see it with Louisville. I mean, like the thing is, Louisville's a lot better team this year, I think, than they were last year, but the schedule is also much harder. Like last year at AC Media Day, we talked to Jeff Braum, and I basically asked him, like, hey, given you have a cakewalk schedule, like how important is it to win in year one? He's like, well, we always respect our opponents, but there's no doubt that we really have an opportunity in front of us here. We got to capitalize on it, which was probably like the most honest answer a coach could give to the question based on the way it was phrased. But you're right. Like, I mean, there's a reason Tyler Shuck keeps getting chances. It's because the kid is really talented. He just keeps getting hurt. So if he does actually stay healthy in 12 games, I mean, they could definitely do it. Virginia Tech was a very different team once they committed to Kyron Drones and running the offense in the way that they wanted to run. They were like 60% run rate neutral situations last year with Drones, which I thought was pretty huge. So that's a really easy schedule.
Yes.
I got some good numbers for them to go 11-1 that I hit like 2 months ago. And I mean, there's some opportunity there. I think I'm not really buying SMU at all. If you go, I don't know if you want to dig into it. Look at the quarterbacks SMU faced last year in the American. I mean, people lost accounts because of that SMU Temple game because it was Warner and the backup out for Temple, right? And won 55-0 on the road, and we bet 19. It closes 28 or whatever it was, and that's a great way to lose accounts. So anyway, I think there's like 6 teams in the ACC that could do it.
Let's look at the Heisman really quick. You said there wasn't a whole lot of value now, which we don't have any long shots on the board, but anything that you have bet already or that you're looking to? I
could see Avery Johnson. There's people that'll tell you he's the fastest quarterback in college football since Lamar Jackson. I don't know if I buy that, but I do think he's a really special athlete, a guy with like legit track speed. So given Kansas State's pretty easy schedule, I mean, he's got a very marketable look. He's got the blonde mullet going on. He ran by NC State's defense in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which they're not slow there in Raleigh. I mean, that I could certainly see. I know Gabriel got bet. I thought that was correct. I don't know if it was correct down to 800, but that makes sense. Nico will probably put up crazy numbers. I like Nussmeier a ton, but I have already bet Nussmeier to go first overall at like 60 and 55 and 50. And I would rather have that price than, what do we have Nuss here?
So 16 to 1. These numbers, courtesy of the Superbook, 16 to 1 on Nussmeier. Right
like,
now.
Would you rather bet Nussmeier to go first overall at 4x that or 3x that? Because I think there's a bit of a bias against another LSU quarterback back to back. Yeah. Right. Because Daniels just won it. So if he's slightly worse than Daniels, which I think numbers wise he will be because the receivers are gone. But that's an LSU offensive line that'll have 4 players drafted in the upcoming draft. So, I mean, there's not a lot of guys who are going to touch him. And he's like, the dad was an NFL OC. He's got the look. He's mobile enough. LSU's paid to keep him around for 2 years as the backup. And they let Howard walk to Ole Miss, the other kid they liked. Mm-hmm. So, to me, like direction, I'm reading into the actions of LSU that kept him around.
Speaking of LSU, I want to go to the SEC where just eyeballing this on paper, obviously we know Georgia's Georgia still. Yeah. Texas, I have as the number 4 team, just like the coaches poll did. And then I know Jalen Milroe's back. I know that Kalen DeBoer has won everywhere he has been. I still have a little bit of question of what Alabama's exactly going to be. Then you have that next group for me, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, Tennessee, all those teams capable of making the playoff this year.
I agree. I mean, the one thing with Milroe is I don't think he's a great passer, but if you go back and look at what DeBoer did when he was, coaching FCS and kind of lower level FBS in Michigan, guys, he's had a quarterback be his leading rusher or be over 1,000 yards rushing 3 times. Yeah, I think Jalen Milroe is going to be an excellent college fantasy quarterback this year because I think he's going to run like crazy. Pass rusher and corner for Bama, I think, are big concerns. But ultimately, like, it's a pretty good run blocking O-line. You got Milroe, who's a pain in the ass to deal with, and I think the defense will be good enough. Like, they'll still be good. I don't know if they're going to be what they have been. Ole Miss takes a step up with the transfer portal stuff, and I mean, there's so many teams that probably could do it. I'm a little bit like, I don't know why LSU didn't go out and get defensive help in the portal. Like, if you think you're going to have 4 O-linemen drafted and you think you got a guy who's a real stud at quarterback and you like the receivers you have, I mean, do they really believe in what they have on that roster defensively, or do they just kind of flub the transfer portal? Because that's kind of what I think happened defensively.
It's interesting with LSU because obviously everyone went after their defense a year ago. You have the Heisman Trophy winner. You have all that high end receiver talent. And for Brian Kelly, I mean, it was pretty messy what he inherited, and I think a lot of people are just missing that right now. Where this roster, and look, the SEC, I'm just curious to see if the committee will cap the amount of teams from any sort of conference. If there's a conference that's going to break that cap, it's the SEC this year, though.
I don't know if they'll cap it, but I think if the SEC gets this way, everybody will just be seen with like the blinders on SEC schedule.
Of course.
Right? But like Missouri's schedule, there's a lot of ACC team and Big Ten teams that would trade for that in a heartbeat.
100%.
But like nobody really wants to trade for Florida's schedule or Oklahoma's schedule. So to me, there are certain teams in the SEC that can probably get in at 9-3, and there are certain teams that probably have to go 10-2. I'd be surprised if Missouri gets in at 9-3. Not like it could happen, but I would be a little bit surprised there, just given they don't play a lot of of what we perceive in the preseason to be the upper tier teams.
Yeah, Missouri has to go to College Station. They go to Tuscaloosa, and they get Oklahoma and Auburn at home. The rest of that schedule is South Carolina's an around a 500 team to me. Mississippi State underwater. Same with Arkansas and Vandy. Again, I am a Mizzou alum, Bud. So this is the year that
how scared should we be that every single Missouri defensive guy that got drafted is killing it in preseason camp right now? Should we read into this?
I think I do.
Okay.
Especially since the question for me going into this year is their secondary.
Yeah.
That's their That's the question mark. Their offense has the potential to be a top 5 offense in the country. Other than Schrader, basically everyone that needed to come back came back. But again, you just mentioned it. That schedule where there'll be a small dog at A&M. I'm not buying A&M one bit. I'm not in that camp. There'll be a 8-9 point underdog at Alabama, maybe more if Bama ends up being impressive. The rest of that, they should be favored in every other game on their schedule this year. And 10-2 SEC teams not getting left out, regardless of what the logo on the helmet may be.
And they were, 4-0 in one-score games last year?
Yeah.
Although, really, to me, it's like 4-1 because LSU,
the LSU game was a one-score
defensive score.
game.
Yeah. I mean, that's like they had good close score luck last year, obviously. But, I think Drake's a good coach.
Yeah.
Also, do you think Brady Cook is like an actual dude, or is he just kind of okay?
Well,
because he might need to be a dude for them to go 10-2.
So the big thing obviously is Burden's at worst the second best receiver in the country to me.
Right.
At worst. So if you have the right game plan every single week, which Mizzou did more times than not a year ago, you can sacrifice the fact that Brady Cook's 40-1 to win a Heisman right now.
Right.
I don't think that number should be like 80-1 to me. Burden should have the shorter odds of a Missouri player on that team. I think Cook can be good enough to win 10 games. Now, if you're asking them to win multiple playoff games, that's a different story because then obviously the competition goes up. Like if Mizzou has to go to, let's say they have to go to Odson in like a 6 versus an 11 game, which I think is well in play, they'll lose that game. Yeah. Oregon will beat them. But if they get like Penn State,
they could do it.
They could go on the road to Penn State, beat Penn State, especially if they get them in Columbia. They could beat them.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that.
You brought up Oregon. I want to go to the Big Ten. You talked about Washington and the turnover there. A lot of people are very high on Ohio State. Anyone that jumps out to you besides those two, Oregon and Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
Probably in your power ratings relatively at the top.
I just don't think the Big Ten always, the best team wins the Big Ten. It's like the most predictable thing out there. Like on CBS, they're like, all right, who's your sleeper? And I just told our producers, like, I don't have one. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, just put there is no sleeper in the Big Ten for my pick. Because, why humor it? Like, the best team wins the Big Ten, and I don't think that's going to change. Now, what does that mean? I think it actually means there's a pretty good chance for the Big Ten to get 4 teams in. Because, Michigan's offense might be very much down from where it was last year, but who can block them on that schedule, right? Penn State, kind of the same. Like, who's going to block Penn State? There's not many teams out there that really can. Oregon and Ohio State, I think you got to feel really good about. Even if you don't think Howard's amazing, and I don't, but he's still like a 24-year-old guy who's 6'4", 240. They're going to run him some. Like that. That's kind of grown man status at playing a college kid's game, which is pretty helpful there. I kind of think it's top heavy personally. I guess USC would be the one you'd have to kind of think about. I did bet some Iowa 16 and 14 to make the Big Ten title game.
Well,
which sounds crazy.
You look at Iowa, their offense just has to improve from beyond pathetic to even just bad.
Have you seen their schedule?
It's a cakewalk.
Somebody forgot to give Iowa the new Big Ten schedule. Like, all right, Iowa, cool. And oh wait, we gave them the old Big Ten West schedule.
No, they're going to get crushed in Columbus.
Sure,
of course, but
they could go 8-1.
Just looking at it again, if they win at Minnesota. What a sentence that is. If they win in Minnesota, they have a real shot of being favored in every other game on the schedule the rest of the way.
My bosses at CBS probably don't want this to happen, by the way. They're like, oh, good Lord, really? This is, because we've got so many exciting games to watch. And then Iowa, who literally had 100 yards offense last year in the Big Ten title game. And
get Ohio State to beat, or Oregon to beat them 28-3, and it's really not even that competitive. One other easy Big Ten schedule I just want to bring up. I don't think they're that good, but Rutgers' conference schedule is absurdly easy.
Very.
Where that's another season win total that I would look at potentially betting for the conference ones behind us. It's only 4. Again, I don't love the roster, but beat Illinois at home, beat Minnesota at home, beat a Washington in transition at home. You just got to find one more, and then you got a real shot of going over that.
And there's almost nowhere in the country where Callie McManus would be an upgrade at quarterback, given how bad he was last year for Minnesota. That kid sucked. But he didn't suck as much as Rutgers' quarterback situation sucked. So I do actually buy into the idea that he's an upgrade for them. And the ROC worked with him before, Straka. So at least he knows what he's getting into, I guess. I could see it.
Yeah, before that fluky play against Ohio State, they had Ohio State in deep trouble in that game last year at Piscataway.
Did you bet Indiana?
I did not. I love Cignetti for obvious reasons. It just for that league taking that big of a step in year one, I just couldn't quite get there with them.
My thought process is kind of like we should power rate them like one of the best Sun Belt teams we've seen recently, because that's basically what they are. They're like a Sun Belt all-star team. What's the best Sun Belt team? Probably in the 70s.
What would the best Appalachian State team you possibly
would they make a bowl with this Indiana schedule type thing?
Yeah.
I kind of think so, but Rourke's got to stay healthy. Which if he doesn't, then they're cooked, and he's not stayed healthy in many years.
They're the team now. Again, their schedule they got pretty good schedule luck, all things considered. Now they'll get crushed by Michigan in Bloomington, and they'll get crushed at the shoe. But,
what did Chris hang for the conference win totals for them?
Okay, let's get my handy dandy sheet here.
This is one I hit elsewhere
see
early.
If I can find Indiana, where are you?
I have it right here.
3.
Okay. So he did it right. There was some 2.5 flat earlier, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's three juiced under. 3
no
minus 3 minus 30 under.
Yeah,
which makes a lot of 3 and 6 makes a lot of sense based off that schedule.
I thought 2.5 flat was a pretty good over bet, but a lot of that's been snapped up.
Before we let you go, Bud, just looking at everything across the board here, because we haven't really mentioned Georgia much, but when push comes to shove here, this really does feel like, and Chris put a prop up of Georgia and Ohio State versus the field, which he opened as a coin flip and then is toggled back and forth and is back at that coin flip right now. Is there realistically, other than maybe Oregon, a team that really can shove up into that Ohio State-Georgia group by maybe the beginning of November or something along those lines?
I don't know that necessarily that somebody could just on talent. I guess potentially Oregon. We don't know that Georgia has killers on the D-line, right? We kind of always assume they do, but last year they didn't. And Bama pushed them around in the SEC title game. I think just the fact they have a bunch of old guys, probably. But in a 12-team playoff, I really do. Stuff can happen. And Georgia could also miss the playoff. I don't think it's very likely, but they are a little more quarterback dependent to me than an Ohio State. I'd much rather lay Ohio State minus $6 than Georgia minus 4.5. Because, you could easily, if Carson Beck were to go down early in the season, I don't want that to happen. I don't think it will, obviously. They could go 8-4. That. Remember, they lost their backup to Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with a lot of inexperienced quarterbacks there behind Carson Beck, who I think is really good. But if he stays healthy, they're pretty chalk.
That schedule, I will say, is not the easiest.
See what I'm saying? Take Carson Beck off there and let me know what their record is. Because, if you don't have Carson, kind of 8-4 is in play.
At Alabama, at Texas, those are the 2 hardest road games in the country, basically all year for anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then at Ole Miss, too. So, not the easiest. There's that as well. Cover 3 podcast, CBS Sports, Bud Elliot 3 on the tweets. You'll see him tomorrow. College football preview panel over at Bet Bash. Him, Brent McMurphy, Tim Murray. We'll get you all ready for the college football season. Bud, it's a pleasure having you in studio.
Enjoyed it, y'all.
Absolutely. Bud Elliot, everyone. Before we get out of here, Alex, let's check in with our good friend Ryan McCormick. Denny Nagel's residency hits day 3 with
day 3, yeah.
Frank Nicotero there, Ryan.
Yeah, bringing in Greg Vaughn as well.
Nice.
And then another friend of Denny's, Doug Elin, is joining the show, producer and writer for Entourage, the show and the movie. So it should be a very fun show with the guests that we have. We will have an Olympic chunk, as we have throughout the entire Olympics. Obviously, Post with Punchlines doing it. That's crazy. And we are still going to do Hump Day Homers, even though Alex will not be joining us on the show. She could possibly give us one just to kind of make sure we all keep the tally right. And we've also got a Who Day Wednesday, so you got to tune in at noon.
I think I've told you this. You knew that I was an extra on an episode of Entourage back in the day, right?
I did not know that.
I did not know that. Okay, well, I'll have to save that for the next time I'm on with you and Frank then. Return to Queens Boulevard, that episode.
All right.
You not missable in the background. You'd see me right away on that. Tomorrow, Alex, we have a great guest again.
Yes,
right at the top, Captain Jack in studio. Looking forward to that with Bet Bash well underway. And we'll see if we can get you back on the winning side of things in baseball, Alex. All those
good.
sides today. Actually, run through them one more time for everybody.
Okay, let me pull them up right here.
Yep. Alex with a nice 6-pack here of baseball plays here this morning.
Padres money line. Nats is my dog of the day. Mets -160. Mariners -130. Twins and Cardinals. Best number you can find out there. Shop around.
Shop around, indeed. Alex, we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Sean, Caden, and Ryan, good work as always. Keith, good joke in the middle of the show as well. Well done. We'll see you again tomorrow. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.